But yeah, man, Melon, we're using Melon app, and we had some technical difficulties in Antonio, second week in a row, but we're getting there. We're getting better at the whole live streaming thing. It's
Yeah, it's
tough,
a whole
man.
part of the live streaming. It always happens with Twitch or anything like that. There's always something going on, whether it's
Yeah,
audio, video, or just the
Th-
thing
this
itself.
gives me like a lot of respect for streamers,
Yeah.
especially ones that somehow manage to put together a well put together stream that has very few hiccups. It's an impressive thing. Very
Yes,
hard to do. Very hard to do.
it is.
Um, yeah. So, anyways, we're here. How are things?
Things are good. It's been a good week. I think it's been a good productive week, and yeah, it's good to be also here and to be able to talk
Can
to all
you
of you.
feel the shift in the spring? I mean, I know you're up in LA, but I'm down here in San Diego, and I can feel it. I got my windows open. The Padres are back. There's a season opener last night, and
Nice.
man, I feel spring. I feel it full force. You feel the same thing up in LA?
Here it's gotten a little bit warmer. It went from like 50 degrees one night to like 95 like the next morning. So it feels like
95 degrees.
yeah, it went to like almost like 85, like 90 degrees.
Jeez, yeah. Last night I got up to 85. Yeah, it was hot, man. It's hot. I like it though. It's good. But it is weird. We're in a weird period where it's like it's very inconsistent. So you never really know what you're gonna get. It's not like the summer where it's fairly consistent. It's like kind of fluctuates. But no, it's good, man. I feel good because like I can just leave the windows open. I feel just all these good emotions with spring coming around the corner. It's a good feeling. It's good times. Glad to hear that this week was good. It went by fast. And
It
you made a lot
did.
of great content. You're really exploring the horizon here and trying out new things.
Yeah, I've been kind of trying to just experiment with different things, different styles, different kind of tones to the content. So I feel like it's
Yeah,
important to just kind of find whether it is kind of more comedic stuff or more serious stuff or more educational stuff, and kind of finding a balance between like the entertaining aspect of it, also finding what works in terms of, as I said, like the entertaining versus kind of more of like the educational aspect to it.
right, right. Yeah. And I definitely want to go over some of those pieces and maybe like talk about some of the value that you created behind the scene, or sort of like what your message was in the video and what we can learn from it. I think that's something that would be really helpful throughout the week when we do these live streams is just talking about the content, just so that we can absorb the information. So just putting the content out there, but that we're actually like sort of evaluating it and trying to really take home a message here. you know and I think
Absolutely.
that's what content's all about is what is the message. I think like especially what I'm seeing, this is just my personal perspective, but like with Gary Vee and all this like content that's just being thrown out there a million miles a minute. I think sometimes it's nice to sit there and talk about the content and reflect on the content and try to actually like get something valuable out of the content, rather than just having all this content just being thrown out there. I think it's kind of nice. It's almost like a content book club where we can sort of evaluate what we
It
learned
is.
in the material. Yeah, I would love to do that real quick. After a few product updates, I would love to share sort of what's going on within MotionBox and what we've achieved over the past week. Yeah, I mean, real quickly, I mean, it wasn't much in terms of anything new, but we did a lot of stabilizations in the multiplayer. There was a few things that were messed up in the code base that was basically implementing the multiplayer service in not the most efficient way. So started to catch on to that because the problem that I noticed was people were not able to generate subtitles after a certain point. Like after like 20 generated subtitles or so, it would start to break because I was sending all the data in one payload, and apparently with WebSockets, you can only send so much data per request, per whatever you call it in WebSockets. The protocol is kind of a newer thing to me, but it's something that's really important for me to learn because our system depends heavily on WebSockets. But yeah, I learned something, and that is don't send large payloads via WebSockets. Try to keep them small and tight and break them up in chunks. And that was a nice lesson I learned in the product. That's actually going to help us, not run into these issues anymore. So that freed up a lot of problems that were occurring, and then there was a few other things that I worked on to stabilize the product, and now it's looking pretty good. I've tested it with a few people, and yeah, no red flags, no major issues that I'm aware of at the moment. It seems like everyone that uses the product is able to go in and get the job done efficiently. So that's great. So that's a big win. And then also something that we've been pushing forward with Motionbox is we've been building a lot of templates. So major shout out to Jake, our template designer. He has been pumping them out. And this is something that I don't think we've really talked about a lot over the past few live streams. But this one, I would love to just show the people kind of what templates that we come up with. And I think there's an interesting one. Let me share my screen. There's an interesting one where video memes are obviously part of the internet culture that we know and love. And I think it plays a major part in the culture. But the thing that we're traditionally accustomed to is just static memes. And I think because video editing is kind of hard and to make video memes is quite a lot of friction. But I think what we're doing is trying to make that as easy as possible. And I think we're doing a good job of that. And I think we're creating something that is super easy. For instance, Jake has made some meme templates, specifically taking a lot of common static memes and turning them into videos. And so if you actually navigate to our templates and then our category section, you'll see the video memes. And from here, we have several options that'll help you get started. And this is one that I think is hilarious, but it also shows the value of creating memes in Motionbox. And that's because a lot of this material on top of the video you can edit it. So if you actually open it up and create it, all you gotta do is click use template. You'll get an instance that you'll have access to, basically like a copy that you can go and you can modify. And so you can actually like swap out this Trader Joe's for anything that you find funny that are relevant in your company or within your circle of friends, or just in your corner of the internet. A lot of people are into like Bitcoin these days and crypto and finance. So there's a lot of opportunity to make sort of a joke about crypto or Bitcoin versus Ethereum.
Yeah.
And you can add this text as well. So like Bitcoin joke. I'm not really crafty with memes. I just help people make them. I'm not a memer, but my mission is to provide the tools behind the scenes for the memers, and so the memers can come in and make some funny stuff. But the cool thing is this is all a video, and it just adds a little bit more emotion, adds a little bit more life to the content. And yeah, I mean that's pretty much it. You just go and you swap these out, and then you hit quick export. And yeah, you start sharing it with the web, and it's super fast. And shout out to Jake for putting this together. And he has several other options that are absolutely hilarious and also leverage the power of what you can do in Motionbox. I know he spent quite a bit of time on this one. He actually handcrafted the eyes there, which is cool, to make the memes sort of stand out a bit. But he has a bunch of other ones, like this guy, this little baby is a very familiar face in the meme culture. But this also brings it to life, which is cool. So it's like memes 2.0. Maybe that's something we can coin. It's like the internet sort of evolved and it became web 2.0. Maybe we're the ones that are evolving memes, and we can call it memes 2.0. So those are the video memes. We have a few other really amazing templates. The one that he's currently working on is Facebook covers. I don't know if these are live yet, so yeah, there's nothing there yet. They will be by the end of the day. I think the Facebook covers are really cool. There's if I have a demo, there's one perfect for gamers in particular. I don't know. Yeah, he hasn't shared it with me yet, but the ones with Facebook covers are pretty dope. Really happy with what he's doing there. But that's pretty much it with the product updates. I mean, a lot of just bug fixes, stabilization, sort of fixing just little UX things and making sure the product is as polished as possible. One thing, though, I do want to share that I'm excited about is, where is it? So we're going to actually be adding, sort of like in Figma, you can actually add rectangles in Figma. So like there's this tab or this like little drop down that allows you to have drawing capabilities. So you can say, for instance, select a rectangle, and you can draw on this plane a rectangle. But the cool thing is rectangles are sort of the basis of every, or a lot of really important shapes. And there's a lot of really interesting things that you can do with a mere rectangle. And for instance, you can draw an iPhone. So you just make it look a little bit more rectangular like this. We add some border radius, right? Something like that. And you can, tinker with the shape. And then you can add other elements like the earpiece. And then you can actually like put in a video within the shape. And then what we actually plan on adding in the future is the ability to add keyframes so that you can move the video and create cool ads and cool videos. And so what I'm working on right now is I have this code where it's sort of the basis of the actual drawing mechanism, where you can actually click, it locks in the point, and you can draw on the two-dimensional plane. It'll lock it in, and it'll create an SVG, and then I'll add the ability to add border radiuses, to modify the width and the height, and then eventually we'll be adding keyframes. And so with keyframes, you'll be able to move it around through time, and I'm really excited to bring that to the world. I just hope there's enough support for that and people want it enough, because I personally want it, and I'm really bullish on this feature. I'm really bullish on bringing this out, but if nobody wants it, then it's kind of pointless. So if anybody comes across the video and you're excited about that, let me know. Your support means a lot. But that's about it for my updates.
Yeah, that's good. I think that's at least for me, that's a good thing to have specifically, because I feel like it would enable a lot of like the ability for people to do a lot of different things with shapes.
Yeah, I think you just have to use your imagination. I mean,
Yeah.
I think the reason why I'm super confident about this is because I don't think a whole lot of people understand the value of it. Right? Well, I'm sure like designers doing stuff, but I think it's just because I am a designer in my core as well, and so I understand the value of it. But the idea is, if we have like a community of makers and stuff, they can create beautiful pieces of art that they can share with other users who are not necessarily artists or super creative themselves, but they can basically go into our community where they'll be able to copy or reuse some of this work like Lego pieces. And a lot of that will be pre-made and pre-assembled for them, which is just going to be, in my head, super epic, because people in companies that are like have tight deadlines or projects that they need to get out the door quickly, they'll be able to just go into this pile, like it's almost like this toy chest of goodies, and they'll just be able to, instead of reinventing the wheel and starting from scratch, they'll be able to pick something that they absolutely love and that's relevant for their project, and they'll be able to get going immediately. So I'm really excited for that.
I am excited too. I think that would be a good start in terms of like moving forward later on with the keyframes and all of that. I think it will enable a lot of good things.
Yeah, because I mean, basically the it's all about pixels, and the more that you can sort of work with the pixels and put your creative sort of creative ability onto the screen and onto the canvas, and you have the right tools for that. Like it's sort of like giving Picasso a brush. If he has the brush, he'll do some really amazing things. But if he has not a brush, but something else, maybe he'll be inventive and somehow piece it together. But you need the tools, and that's our goal as tool makers, is to try to provide that to the world. And I think there's a lack of that in the video space, where I think After Effects sort of has the monopoly on that. And while that's great and all, I think there's still a world in which it could be better. It could be more accessible. It can leverage the power of the internet. And that's sort of my take on that. So I'm excited. We'll see where it goes, but I'm excited to bring it to the world at the very least. But yeah, I would love to dive into some of your content pieces and talk about what you've created, and maybe we can learn something from the content. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to actually share my screen again, or unless if you want to, and you can cover the Instagram posts that you've created, and maybe just go over some things, and we can talk about that.
For sure. Let me open the tab right here. Yeah, let me share it. All right. Can you see it? Let me see.
I think I have to click show on stream.
Perfect.
Cool. Yeah. So storytelling. Wait, which ones did you create this week? Was it
these three?
The top three? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Storytelling beats everything else. Okay, let's start with that one. Why don't you play that? And we'll talk about it. Like walk us through. So you use Story Creator or the Motion Box. Sorry, I still call it for this video. That's awesome. So like, I don't even need you to explain this video because my audio is off, but I can see what you're saying.
Right.
Better because you're telling a story and you're hooking people. That's why subtitles are super important. And I love the animated text.
Absolutely. It's pretty simple. It's a pretty
Yeah.
like quick pace kind of reel in terms of that. Like it's a very quick pace. Like I usually don't do them in that form. I usually take a little more
Right.
time. But kind of experimenting with kind of like the fast pace style on a
Right.
post and a reel, like in that sense. And I think storytelling, like I had done a post about storytelling a while back before one of my previous pages, but this one I think kind of takes all of that I did in a 1 or 2 minute video and compresses it into a 10-second video. And I think what's important about storytelling is like we have storytelling in everything. We have storytelling in how we speak. We have storytelling in like the way we communicate with others. And I mean, what we're doing right now is a form of storytelling. We're explaining. We're talking about something. We're talking about our experiences and whatnot. So all those things kind of all tie back to storytelling. And
yeah, people love that. There's generally a structure to a good story, and it invokes emotion, and it invokes like maybe some sense of nostalgia, some sense of hope for the future. Storytelling it just sort of opens up the door versus like just like very surface level conversations that we tend to have. Like if I get into a car and maybe I don't know the person, he's not very comfortable talking, I just say, hey, the weather's nice today. But a lot of times what we truly want as humans, I think, is to go a little bit deeper and to understand what is that person's story? Like how does that person see the world? You know, we all want to have a much more intimate understanding of other people's sort of perspectives. And I think storytelling is sort of that framework to help us dive deep into that without
absolutely.
just surface level, hello, how you doing, bull crap, you know? So yeah, I think storytelling is a tool that helps us, you know, really convey who we are, the way we see the world, and just creates good emotions and maybe some bad emotions, maybe some mixed. It's like a roller coaster, and yeah, I think it's definitely a skill, though. Would you say?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a skill that you develop over time. I think that, like specifically good storytellers, like it's a long-term skill that you develop for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a lot of people know. Like, I think they know that that's the answer. Like or they know the value of storytelling. But I think a lot of people they just don't know how to tell a story.
Right.
Right. Or they're too much in fear of saying the wrong things, or maybe they're fearful that they'll be judged, or they're fearful that they don't have the right vocabulary or the right you know, sort of tools, I guess, like whether that's through their words or through their you know, through video or through even just like text or content. But I think you know, there has to be some level of comfort, and you know, not everybody's comfortable getting in front of the video, or not everyone's comfortable telling their past. So how do you like overcome that?
I think honestly, it's just time and practice. Like like when people always ask me like, oh, how do you get comfortable on camera? How do you get comfortable streaming? Or how do you do this and that? And I think it's a matter of basically just start doing it and just learn as you go.
Yeah.
Like the first video that I did, damn, that's probably like almost a year ago, probably.
Right.
Like full on video on like social media. It was, I think I have it somewhere.
That's that long ago.
Yeah.
I'm impressed that like how far you've come in such a short time, actually.
Yeah, I think it helps that I had an acting background. And
right.
Like,
well, I think like, but before you even get into it, it's like you have to almost like have a really solid why. Like you don't just get into it because you know you're told to, or because it's like, oh, this is what everyone's doing. You need to understand the value of it, and you have to have a solid why, because that's going to keep pushing you forward. And but I mean, obviously, would you agree that there's value in creating video, and why do you think there's value in creating video?
I mean, I think video is one of the biggest ways that you and I can communicate, like how we're doing right now, and people can communicate on a larger scale rather than just doing static.
We're transferring so much more information in such a smaller window of time.
Yeah.
and we're doing it sort of to the world. Like we're communicating to, it's like a one to many type of thing where we
Right.
can actually convey lots of information to lots of people, and we can sort of, it's stored as a reference in time, and so people can look back retrospectively and see the stream 10 years from now, 15 years from now, 20 years from now. And so there's a lot of power in that. And then just seeing facial expressions, seeing people's emotions, hearing their tone, all that. And it's also, you stand out too, because not a whole lot of people are doing it, because it does have a barrier to entry, right? And so you stand out as well.
Absolutely. I think that's one of the most important things to take consideration. As you said, like finding the why. Because I mean, when I first started, I didn't really have the why. When I first started the first few videos that I did, I
Right.
think you could tell because it was just like I was just doing this. I was like, well, other people are doing video, and
Right.
I think the moment that I found the why, and I found
What was
why I
your
was
why?
doing, I think honestly, it took me a while, and I think I realized that the why was just being able to communicate with people and just share like my experience or share my like what I have learned. And I think
Yeah.
that comes down to, I mean, I do it now on a larger scale on 7 to 8 minute videos on YouTube reviewing tech.
Yeah.
And that's a kind of a big jump. And when I did that jump, I had to also had a why of what. So I decided that for that specifically, it was being able to share, like if I'm using a specific type of tech, a phone or a keyboard or a mouse or a camera or whatever it might be, I want people to kind of know what the product is and what the thing is, and should they actually
Right.
get it or not.
Right.
And
Again, I mean, it comes back to, you were able to convey a lot of information, show all the angles. You were able to show the feelings that you have when you unbox the thing. You were able to show sort of what it looks like when it turns on. It's
right,
just so much more descriptive and so much more intimate with the experience, compared to like text or just like a photo, right?
absolutely,
Right. Right.
yeah,
And so yeah, I mean, I think ultimately though, like for me, like I was like looking back too on the way I used to think in the past, or the way I used to communicate, um, and also the experiences that I had. Like I always like to, I never am ever mad like 2 years later when I'm looking back in my history of content, and I'm like, whoa, that was like such a good time, and like reliving those memories. I've never ever been mad. If anything, I've always
right,
been extremely satisfied with being able to look back at the experiences that I had, maybe some of the content, whether that's like just a skit or a trip that I went on, or just like, like a live stream like this. I've always like enjoyed looking back and saying like, oh, this is what I used to think, this is what I used to look like, this is how I used to dress.
yeah,
So like even for me, just like evolving as a person, creating content is a great way to sort of create sort of a way to introspect, a way to learn from yourself, a way to improve. And then also, I would say like it's also, yeah, it's just a great way to I would say like communicate with people, because like what you were saying with the video, you're able to show so many more points of data in such a quick amount of time. And so yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty clear. The thing is, like, I don't think a lot of people are sold on video for some reason, and maybe that's just because they're getting in their own way, and it's like the fear that they have in getting in front of the video outweighs the actual benefit that they perceive that they can get from video. Because maybe some people are like, oh, this is futile. Maybe like if I get in front of the camera, there's nothing special about me. I can't stand out. I'm not pretty, or I'm not handsome, or maybe I can't articulate myself very well. And so some people see that and might be like, well, it's futile, right?
right. I mean, also I
What would
think
you?
like for the most part, I think what kind of going based on that is like also people sometimes I feel like also the time commitment to it too, because
Right,
if you're doing a carousel or a single image, it's maximum if you have a very nice workflow, it probably maximum takes you maybe 20-30 minutes, maximum an hour if you're doing something like very elaborate. With a video, if you're prepping a script, let's say like a 10 second, like a 1 minute video, let's say
right,
you have a script that is like one paragraph, two paragraphs. You either memorize it if you're good at memorizing, or you put it on teleprompter, or you just write like bullet points and then just go from there and just kind of like improvise it. And
right,
then that's just like the prep. Then you go have to sit down, set up the camera, maybe your phone if you have a DSLR camera, and then from there you have to edit. And then if you're gonna add subtitles, you have to do that after.
Right,
So I
right,
think also people sometimes, aside from feeling like, oh, I'm not this or not that, I'm not the kind of person for video. It's also kind of the time commitment that it does take more time, and it
right.
requires another set of skills. So if it's just something that is not,
You know who's somebody that's good at video content from time to time? I've been watching Rhonda, who is your friend,
yeah,
and Rhonda, we've invited her to be on the show.
yeah,
Do you know where she's at? Do you have an invite link for her? I think
yeah. Let
maybe
me.
she's somewhere. Let's bring her on because I want to get her perspective. She probably has a lot to say about the matter in terms of video content. I think
Yes,
another thing though. Yeah, we didn't really cover the other bits, but I mean, we were just kind of going off on why video is important, and I think it's clear why video is important. I would love to learn from Rhonda like why she thinks video is important and why she spends the time and energy making video content and what like the benefit that she's received from because we all need like benefit, right? We all need to
absolutely.
have some sort of reward, right? Like that's the only way we can really work as a human species is like if there's a reward at the end of the activity, right? Like I try to like soup it up. Everything that I'm doing, I like there has to be a reward for me. Like when I'm creating a bit of code or something, like the reward for me is the satisfaction of like having a working, functioning thing that can be used by lots of people. And then when it's like SEO type of stuff, when I'm creating a piece of content, the reward for me is like the opportunity that somebody can actually come across this piece of content and come into our ecosystem and become a paying user. So there's opportunity, there's like potential for things that when you create something, you got to look at the reward being the opportunity that you make
Right.
a sale or the opportunity that you make a key connection. And so you got to look at even if it's not the macro reward of like getting the sale or getting the money in the bank, you got to look at the micro reward of having that opportunity to
Absolutely,
eventually lead to a bigger reward. So,
absolutely.
but I would love to learn from Rhonda. Is she around?
She is here in the chat. Let me see if she can get into the link.
There she is.
She is. Okay. Cool.
Oh, we can show that on the stream. That's cool.
That's cool. It's good to know. Let me see. She's gonna join in a second, I think.
Cool. Well, in the meantime, we can bring our in-house guest Bob over behind me. Bob's been waiting patiently over the past few live streams. Bob, how have you been, man? Looking stylish as usual. Normally, he's always like showing off. He's got his shirt off half the time, but he got cold over these past few days because I've been leaving the window open overnight and
It's having a fun
gave him a
time.
jacket. He's having a good time though. He's a wild man. He's got my Pirates of the Caribbean dreadlocks. He's got my winter jacket. He's having a good time though.
Yeah, it seems
He
like
doesn't have a lot. He doesn't have a lot to say though, unfortunately.
no. He's a quiet person.
He is. He is. He just likes to sit in the background.
Yeah, yeah. She's joining now. I think she's having some technical difficulties, but it should be here soon. And in the meantime, I think you can cover these like these two very quickly.
Yeah, I'd be interested. I mean, like for anybody that wants to create content, got to have a why, right? But
Yes.
usually, like it all leads to some sort of sale or some sort of you could say transaction at some point or another. But you got to really look at the small opportunity wins that you create every piece of content that you make, and also you have to look at it as maybe okay. Like for me, it's like if you are going to create a piece of content, you're either going to do something good or another. One of it being you're leading to a potential sale,
Right.
or maybe you're not. Maybe, but you are leading to becoming better at what you do, and you're becoming more confident, better on camera, a better creator overall. But that's still a net positive win that you gain from creating the content. But eventually, you want to get good enough to where then you can start making the sale. But if you're not progressing, then you obviously need to introspect, say, oh, maybe I need to change some things. But you do need to celebrate those small wins, because I think it's so easy to be like, I want to start creating video because I was promised I would make all these sales, and I would make all these deals. I would get like work, more jobs, opportunities, and stuff like that. But that's too far ahead. You got to like stack the small wins along the way to eventually get there. Otherwise, you'll give up and you'll be like, this is futile. But yeah, that's sort of my main takeaway from that. Yeah, I would love to know you need this to start creating. What do you need? What do you need, Antonio?
I think. Quick thing. Check if Rhonda's in. Sorry.
Oh, she isn't. There
Okay.
she is.
There she is.
Rhonda.
How are you?
Hi.
Let's introduce her properly.
Hi. Right, there I am.
Good to
Hi,
see
guys.
you.
Hi, how you doing?
Doing good.
Okay, what's that thing in the back of Michael?
All right, that is Bob. That is my personal trainer.
Oh, that's your muse.
He's my muse. He is my buff muse. He's also, I beat him up every now and then. But it's because I love him. It's one of those type of relationships. Yeah.
Yeah, but why do you want to beat up Bob?
Well, that's what he was designed for. That's his purpose in life.
Ooh, okay, so then he's definitely a muse. He's also anger management and stress reducer and everything else. Okay.
I haven't beat him up in a while.
I was listening to everything, so it sounded really interesting. So, tell me.
Yes, I'm trying to. I was covering your face there. Now
yeah, I realized that, but that's okay. I can live with that.
No, I fix that. What was the question?
No, something. I was listening to everything that you guys were saying, and you were talking about. Correct me if I'm wrong. You were talking about the power of video and why video is so important and why a lot of people don't use it.
Yep, and you use it, and I'm just like, what we do every week is we like to bring on guests. We like to try to understand them a little bit better, and we want to try to take away a lesson from these amazing creators and see if we can sort of solidify what the hell is going on in this ecosystem, in this space. Why are some people succeeding? Why are some people failing? What are the things that make people tick? Why, sort of what's working, what's not working? Is there a mindset component? Is there sort of a pattern that we can recognize here? And so when it comes to video creators, you obviously being one yourself, why are you a video creator, and like sort of what makes you tick? How, like, is it benefiting you in some shape or form? And is for somebody that is hesitant to make videos, like, what would you say to them? Like, do you have like an insight that might change the perspective?
Okay, and thank you for inviting me. I think you said something about 10 minutes ago when you said that a lot of people are simply just afraid of coming up on camera because basically they're overthinking it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. The thing about it is this. People don't really care how you look on camera, unless they really want to nitpick. And those are not the people who are going to come up anyway. So what they're interested in is your story and the value of whatever you're bringing to the table. Because that's why I say we overthink it. Because I'm doing a video in my kitchen.
Yeah.
Right.
In Trinidad, and you are in LA, and you are where?
San Diego. So
exactly, and that's my point.
Yeah,
that is my point. So the fact of it is this: nobody really cares about where we are from. What they care about is what are we bringing to the table, and how much of what we are saying is going to help them solve a problem or overcome a challenge. So really and truly, if you think about it from that perspective, the truth is people are just overthinking it. They're overthinking it. So yeah, that's it. They're just overthinking it because, I mean, I never think about the camera. I'll be honest with you. Reason being that I have been an instructor for a long time, so I can transition into the camera really fast. I'm 58. This is how I look. I'm an old woman with gray hair. I'm not so
you look great.
I'm not so caught up in the desire to always be cute and on point. So those things, they matter, but yet at the same time, they don't matter. So if you can look at people...
They matter to a degree. There's a law.
Then it's easier.
Yeah, there's a law of diminishing returns. You know, if you like, you want to like put yourself together and look, you know, decent, right? You don't want to like have
Presentable.
boogers all over your
Yeah.
face, but you want to be
Yeah.
presentable. But there's a law of diminishing returns where it's like you're overthinking it, and there's there's not much more improvement that you can make at a certain point. And it's just like accept where you're at, and you know, start talking about the value, start talking about the actual core of something with substance, right? Looks can only go so far on the surface. So, you know, it's really in the substance that matters the most.
Okay, so I'll share something with you that I have learned in the time that I have been online, which is only about 3 years, but I have about 30 years in aviation, 15 years as a course developer, and almost 15 years of working in the aviation industry, which is a global industry. Here's the thing. Here's the thing. People care about your story. People care about the fact that that at 40 I went back to school, and by the time I was 50, I had 3 degrees. And at 55, I started a business at a time when most women are getting ready to play with their grandchildren and retire. I was in my second phase of rolling over. And at 58, I'm completing a doctorate. So I am saying people are fascinated by that because people want to know, so why did you get
That's exactly
into
what I
this
want to know.
business?
Why?
Yeah, why did you get into this business at a time when you are what my friend Diane Weingart refers to as late to the party entrepreneurs? How did you decide to become an entrepreneur at almost 55 years of age? That is a huge story. So people expect that what did I learn on the journey from here to there? That is what becomes
Exactly. Yeah.
fascinating to people. What could they learn from my story? What can I pass on?
Hmm.
What are the things that if I were 27, 25, what would I say to my 27 or 25-year-old self?
Yeah.
So,
People love that. There's a lot of
yes.
value in that too.
So,
Table the story.
and that is the value of video because the other thing is nobody listens to a whole hour of a life.
Right.
That I've learned. But even if you
Listen
do
to Joe
live,
Rogan. Joe
even
Rogan
if
has
you
something
do
special.
live and 5 people come up on your live, that's not a loss because you could take that video and split it up into little pieces, little kernels, edit it, take out pieces that were just superfluous and don't add anything to the story. And then you could repackage it in your stories. You could use it on your website. You could use it in terms of a media kit. You could use it for a pitch so that somebody sees a face behind the logo and your story
Yep.
becomes gold.
Yep.
So if people look at video content from a strategic angle that will add a little more grist to their brand, then they will understand why video is important. And you're quite right. People want to know who we are. Who is Michael Aubrey? Who's Antonio
Yep.
Ruiz? They don't want the
Yep.
packaged, finished, cute product. That doesn't tell them anything. Because
Right. Right.
in the middle of becoming an entrepreneur, there's a lot of rugged times and hungry
Yeah.
times.
They want
They want help
rawness.
with that. They want help with that. That is what they
Yep.
really want help with. So if
I agree.
Michael can give them that, yeah, Michael could turn up with Bob in the back there and they're very
Yeah.
happy.
Yeah, I think you're on to something there. I think you know, the internet's created this world where people are trying to be anonymous at times. People are trying to put on this illusion that of who they aren't, and a lot of people are tired of that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, though, it does work. Like a beautiful woman on Instagram might just be posting photos and get millions of likes, and that's it. That's the value that she provided. And so we still do live in a superficial world, but I think ultimately people are craving rawness, and that's a unique thing that you can bring to the table. And people don't
Okay,
realize that it's a superpower.
okay, so I'll give you a story that Gary Vee gave a while ago, and it was so telling. I felt it. What happens when you're no longer cute? So a woman, we're just using a woman because it could be a man, so we're not going either way. You get 1 million likes and shares and follows by being half naked on social media or with your chest out or whatever. And then you are really a thinker. You could have graduated as an engineer. You are a critical thinker. You want to move beyond your image and you want to write a book or you want to do a TED talk or you want to make a difference in the world. But now you have created an aura around yourself and you have become a victim of that aura. You are so afraid of showing up as yourself because you're afraid that the people who liked you and followed you and shared your images will not recognize who you really are.
Right.
Then the rubber hits the road, and we are seeing it all around us right now because we have the docu series with Demi Lovato, we have the other docu series with Britney Spears, and we are seeing how people became trapped by what the public thought that they were, and they were in hell. So
Right.
there's a plus and there's a minus. The thing is, people always like nice people. Nice is nice. Humans are attracted to that. But what about the time when you become a victim of this packaged celluloid image and then you can't escape it? So you become as much a victim of it as it opens doors for you. You're seeing a pushback from that even in media, even outside of the virtual space. You're seeing a pushback.
Right.
So it becomes important. That's why video becomes important. And that is why it becomes, people are hungry for authenticity.
Right.
I think
Right.
the whole thing of packaging has run its course. And now we are getting a lot of pushback. So they would prefer to know Michael as himself and what does Michael bring to the table.
I think this revolves back to, remember like the cartoons or like back in the day, there was a stigma like to get into Hollywood, you had to sell your soul to get into Hollywood. And I think there's that's sort of what that is. It's like, okay, well, if you see this path that you can take that is easy to get 1 million followers, but it's a path that's not congruent to who you are. That's almost like if you end up taking that path, it's almost like selling your soul because, like you said, you get locked up into this. You create this illusion, and the world perceives you as this thing, and that's the whole contract that you've made with the devil. And a lot of times, it's hard to resist that, but it's important to resist that and to speak your truth and to share who you are and be genuine and be raw, even if it comes at the cost of not, getting 100,000 extra likes or whatever it is. Maybe you get 10 likes instead of 1,000 or whatever, but that's the cost. And maybe it just takes a lot of patience, a lot more time and persistence over the years. But at least, it might take you 3 years to get to the point where maybe you've built something and you're finally getting recognition for who it is that you truly are. It may take a lot more time, but it's going to be a lot more satisfying, I would assume.
Okay, and I'll give you a better example of that. There were 2 Justice Leagues. There was Josh Whedon and there was Zack Snyder. There was an entire movie that was on a cutting room floor that nobody showed because the packaged celluloid version of even face recognition being used on Superman where he didn't even look like himself. And they did not think for 1 second that the real movie, the real raw, authentic movie was the one that they cut and threw away. Right. Look at the effect of the Zack Snyder universe, and the effect. If anybody has not seen the Snyder cut, I would advise that they go look at it because
I think that's on Amazon Prime.
That was an entire movie, and it was 4 hours long. Imagine that makes the point. The Snyder cut was 4 hours of raw footage that was left on the floor, and people thought that people would not sit down and look at a 4-hour movie, and they were entirely wrong. They were so wrong that it wasn't funny.
Yeah, also,
this is my point.
Yeah, also like putting it on a streaming service is also a huge risk for the company because like putting on HBO Max, a streaming service that is like still starting out. they're putting a lot of like chips into it, and they put
HBO Max. Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, they put, I think, they put
But
a lot of
no,
money into it. Yeah.
and they have created such a buzz
Yeah.
because, and maybe we could say that perhaps had it not been for us being so confined that we were hungry for realness, it may not have so, because people would have been distracted with so many other things and would not have the time or make the time to sit down for 4 hours. However, one of the things that is going to come out of a global pandemic is people are reaching for what is real as to what is contrived. And that is why video has become so much of a potent tool, because it aids in telling stories. And people always love stories.
Yeah, going based on that, I think it's an interesting point too, because I think that, like, I mean, we have talked about it before, like you and I, Rhonda, have talked about it, like how video is like becoming, or is now, kind of the future of kind of content creation. And there's a certain shift that some people are kind of fighting against it. And I think it's kind of, at some point, it's kind of going to hit a lot of the people that have been fighting against it, that's where it's moving forward. And it doesn't mean, yeah. And doesn't mean like all the other mediums are going to go away. It's just like, it's just evolving into something else.
It comes with the nature of the internet too, because anybody can be anonymous these days. And so, and a lot of people are anonymous. And so by putting yourself out there, you're maybe in your head, you're taking a risk, but people want that because, we live in this world is like, who is real, who is fake, who is anonymous, who is actually out there being their true selves. And people want, obviously, the true self.
Absolutely.
And not only that, people have become very suspicious of anything that is contrived.
Yes.
It is almost an unconscious suspicion if something is too clean, if it's too tidy. I always tell clients, film raw footage. When you're building a business, do not wait until every shelf is clean and film a lot of raw footage, and then you can decide how much of the footage you want to use. You could use little pieces of the footage. You could do a throwback and tell them where you were before you got to where. So it is a very useful tool. It's not the only tool, and we agree on that.
Absolutely.
But it's a very useful tool because it humanizes a brand.
Yeah.
And today people still buy from people. And now people have to know, love, and trust you. Not just they have to love you.
See, that brings up another question or another sort of problem. What if you're not popular? Like, it is a lot of it is like a popularity contest. So you're putting yourself out there, you're being raw, you're being genuine, but for some reason, this is where a lot of people go wrong, is because, I'm just being myself, but myself is clearly not very popular with the people. People want things that are, maybe gossip oriented or maybe like toxic or whatever it is. And so other people realize that, in order for me to be popular, I have to conform, right? In order for me to conform, then maybe I'll become popular. Maybe I'll actually get more business and stuff. So how do you sort of fight that? How do you find that balance? How do you not subscribe to that and stay true to yourself, but also be engaging and somewhat popular?
Okay, so the rule in business, and Antonio and I have spoken about this at length. You are not selling to everybody. Everybody is not going to like you. Even if you are as cute as a newborn baby, as cute as a fluffy puppy. By the way, how are the dogs going?
He's right here. He's passed out.
Oh, you see, I never forget dogs. Even if you are as cute as the fluffiest of puppies and a newborn babe, there are people not going to like you. Right. So you have to accept that. Here's the thing also. Sometimes, and you will know that, Michael, sometimes you get business from people who have never liked any of your posts, who have never spoken to you in your comments, and who has basically, the only time that they DM'd you is when they were ready to do business with you. So if you use that as a yardstick, that popularity, quote unquote thing, then if you were to test that hypothesis, it would not hold water. The other thing is, and I heard that just recently, I attended a live and a guy said he had 75,000 followers. But here's what he said. He said, I don't see myself as a business person. I see myself as an influencer. And my thought just after he said that was, you're not making any money, are you? because the truth of the matter is small business owners are putting their heart and soul and busting their ass for this thing. They want to make money. Let's get real about this thing. They want to make money. So you telling them that you have 75K followers, and with the same breath you are saying that you see yourself as an influencer. Do you have an affiliate program? Are you selling anything?
Sponsorships, right?
Are there sponsorships? What is happening with these followers? Are you flipping them out of something?
Right.
If you're not, then maybe that's good for you, and more power to you. If it works for you, fine. I am not here to throw any shade, but I am saying that for the average small business owner, they want to make money. They want to feel that there's a reward at the end of the day. Unless you're 15 and your parents taking care of you, and you can very well afford to become a TikTok star overnight because you have nothing else to do. Somebody's paying the bills and somebody's putting food on the table. But the average small business owner, whether it's Trinidad, whether it is LA, whether it is New York, whether it's Chicago, whether it's Russia, whether it's, you name it, they want to make some money.
Yep.
So you telling them, you trying to sell them what you're selling, that is even more deadly, to sell that sort of a dream. And that is what causes the imposter syndrome, because they believe that there's a correlation between numbers and money.
Yeah.
Right.
And that is not true.
It's a vanity metric. Like that's what
and it's a good metric to have.
Yeah.
It's a good metric to have because it brings credibility to your brand.
Yep.
But let's use Nike as an example. If Nike was just in the business of selling sneakers, do you believe that Nike would have become such a humongous brand? No.
No, they would have been just run of the mill, kind of like Skechers, kind of just.
Exactly. You might have been able to buy a Nike in a Payless store.
Right.
But now you think of Nike as the shoes worn by like gladiators, by athletes, by the best in the world. That's what you think.
And added to which, Nike's base story is that you can become a gladiator, even if you're a gladiator, even if it is just to be able to run down to the end of your driveway.
Right.
That's the story. That's a story that they keep selling all the time. That you can be. That is why the tagline is "Just do it."
Just do it.
That's why, and that is how the tagline is tied to the story. That they're not really talking about LeBron James. They're not really talking about Serena Williams. Those people help them to push their base story further. They're speaking to us. We who are couch surfing.
Yeah.
Stories that they're telling us will allow us to take ownership of the brand, to buy into the story, to see ourselves in those stories. And then when we see ourselves in those stories, then we will do it. Then we will buy a Nike, then we will run to the end of our driveway, and then we'll run to the end of the street, and then we'll start to think about doing a half marathon. And that is the story. So we the buyers, the target audience, we are going along with Colin and Serena and Tiger and everybody. We're going on the journey with them because we are taking ownership for their success. Their success and our success is tied together. And that is the power of video done right.
Sounds like there's a lot of opportunity to educate people, to be able to give them the skills and the tools to be able to understand that and to actually create compelling stories that communicate their brand and give them the ability to invoke emotions through their storytelling. I mean, there's a lot that goes on into like a Nike ad, for instance, like, the way they cut the scenes, the music behind the scenes, the text that they use. A lot of that creates sort of that narrative.
Exactly. So one of the things I would suggest, because I'll be doing a lot more video going forward, because I've realized two things Antonio and I realized about 2 years ago, that carousels will start to use video content going forward because it is a kind of a static means of communication, is like a moving billboard.
Yes.
The algorithm likes it, but the algorithm is not going to, is going to get to a point of plateau. And that's why Instagram is pushing reels, because they already know that the algorithm has reached to the end of its shelf life. And like everything else in the content creation circle, before something flatlines, you have to have something in the bag that is going to come up and take that space. Or else the law of diminishing averages will kick in, and it doesn't matter how much you put into something, you'll get the same result. So they know that. So that is why Reels is coming up. But I would want to suggest, just as you said, 2 minutes, just as you said, part of what motion video can do is start to show the backstories of some of the bigger brands from the here to there. So in Nike's case, how do they set up these stories from storyboard to beta testing to final product? What were some
Absolutely.
of the ideas that were good ideas that they have not that they haven't used it, but it was kind of iffy. So they kind of put it aside and probably will revisit it again. Those are the things that will help people to understand that, one, that failure is not a bad thing. And number two, that you can repurpose an idea in a zillion ways.
Absolutely.
And that is the beauty of video. That is why video has its appeal. And again, video is content that is evergreen. You can look at video anytime. You can look at it anytime. Somebody who does not know your brand could see a piece of video from your company that you did 10 years ago, and they will see it today and say, what? I could use this guy in my company. And that's it. That's it.
Right.
And that's the beauty of video content. So it's something to consider.
Right. Yeah, I think for me, I've always been inspired by how like teams like Disney and Pixar, how they work behind the scenes. If you ever watch like Imagineering, or there's like a bunch of stories about Pixar, and I'm always fascinated because obviously we all as consumers see the end result. We tune in to the new Soul movie that was amazing. Even like back when the first Toy Story came out in Pixar's journey, it's like we have all seen the end result, but what was it like behind the scenes making those things? And now that we're sort of opening the doors to all types of creators and all types of agencies and stuff, it's like, well, what can we learn from the best, and how can we transfer their workflows and the tools that they use into a platform, into a tool that can be used by the new wave of creators, the independent creators, the agencies, the startups? How do we provide the tools? How do we provide the education? How do we take what worked for Pixar and provide that to them? That's sort of like one of our baseline missions, is to be able to achieve that.
And that's a fantastic thing, because as you coined the phrase of the new age consumers of video, that is a great target audience, because that is really a level playing field. It means that a 58-year-old will use video content, and a 5-year-old will use video content, and everybody in that continuum will have need for video content. So I think what scares a lot of people about video content is that they feel that they are noobs when it comes to editing the video, putting it together.
That's a big part of it.
If you could do little how-tos and that kind of stuff, how you could shoot videos, tools,
I think that's going to be a big part.
That's it.
Yeah, that's going to be a big part of our. Yeah, we're going to be creating a lot of content around that. I think that's going to be important, creating educational material, teaching people. I think Webflow does a really good job of that with their university. I think even like Figma has a lot of good resources. But one thing I wanted to say with video, if you're watching this and you're feeling like really uncomfortable in front of the camera, the problem that we're also trying to solve is not necessarily like, helping you create video content where you have to be in front of the camera, but the idea of even creating elements like phones and mock-ups and designs that move on the screen, sort of like a motion picture that doesn't necessarily involve a real human on the screen. You can still be anonymous. You can still create stories and tell and emphasize certain things through just movement, through keyframes, and that's something that we want to add really soon. Is the ability to take what would seemingly be an inanimate object and be able to give it life.
Exactly.
That reminded me of something interesting. It's this specific Twitch streamer who she doesn't show her face. The fun fact about it is that she's some sort of like animator or like graphic designer. Like I think she's like an animator. The whole stream is an animated kind of CGI person, and she talks behind it, and the thing moves on stream. So it's like, wow. And it's something different that a lot of people are not doing. She's using something like a huge skill that she has and turning it into a Twitch stream.
Yeah,
exactly.
I'll tell you. Yeah, I love it. Here's another anecdote. I used to listen to this guy, Onage Pranks. He was a practical, he used to call businesses and like have you like funny voices. And he used to do these prank calls. And for a while, I mean, obviously the material was funny, but he eventually started investing in a cartoonist animator that would actually draw out the scenes or like animate out the scenes. So that just enhanced the content tenfold. It was already good just hearing the voice, but adding the visual aspect to it just made it so much more hilarious. I mean, there is a power of like using your own imagination. That's why I like reading and stuff. But still, I mean, we all enjoy good artwork. We all enjoy emotion. We all enjoy pictures that have movement. And so, yeah, I think you can still be anonymous going forward. And if that's you're comfortable with that, cool. But we want to give you the tool to be able to tell your story through movement, through motion, through animation as well.
And I think, yeah, and I think the biggest thing, like the title of this live stream, it's like building a future-proof brand and kind of attracting loyal fans. And I could be wrong, but like I feel like through video and through motion graphics and motion videos, I think that's a great and excellent way to do that. Because it's like, as you said, like evergreen content. I said on a video, it's like long-term. A video that you created 5 years ago, someone might find it 5 years later and be like, "Oh, this is amazing! This is what I've been looking for in the last few months." Yeah,
and that's it.
I think the cool thing about video too is like you can make it super unique. Like we all have conversations, and a lot of conversations get very boring because they have a lot of overlap. But if you can sort of convey maybe a similar story that someone else has through visuals that's unique, and through your own perspective, through your own facial expressions, through your own style of video, like whether it's comedic or educational voice. Like there's so much more information in a video that you create this new variation, this uniqueness. So it's really hard for you to be cookie cutter with video a lot of times. Or it's still possible, but you have the tools to be unique and stand out. That's the key.
Yeah, because here's the thing. Case in point, up to your masters, you are really regurgitating information. So you're literally giving the lecturers what they want, and they will correct. You put in keywords, just like an SEO. You're putting keywords in your essays that are their words, so you're giving back their words to them, and they will read your research and they will say, "What? This song ain't good." But it's not that it's all that good, It's because you are seeding the document with their own words, their own school of thought. So you're kind of showing it back to them, and they are recognizing it, and you get your degree very easily using that process. Here's when that stops. That stops at the doctoral level. Because at the doctoral level, you have to bring new information onto the plate. That is why doctoral work is so hard.
Right.
But the thing about it is this, and I learned that from one of my lecturers in the very first year of my doctoral program. He said that, two things he said. He said that the first rule of research is observation. So if you observe the operational environment, you'll see a lot of things that you'll see the gaps. and you can figure out how can my company, my service fit into those gaps, because it is in the gaps the money is made, not outside, not what everybody is doing, what the little gaps between what everybody is doing. So when
Right.
people say that the market is saturated, it is really not saturated. There are gaps in the saturation where very wise people are going to fit themselves. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is this: any problem, anything that is a problem cannot be researched, because a problem by its very nature already has a solution. So if you have a problem, then it has a solution, then that is not a researchable piece of information.
Right.
Again, it says that there are gaps. What is the gap? So every piece of research that you will ever do really fits on the head of a pin. No matter how long you took to do the research, it fits on the head of a pin, and it is all the pins together that makes the entire picture. All the pixels of a picture is what makes the picture. So if you look at it from that perspective, then you can look, me as a business strategist, I don't look at the bigger picture. What I do look at is, what do you have to bring to the table? What are the gaps in the industry in which you are operating? How do you plan to fill those gaps? Because everybody might be doing the same thing, but nobody is doing it the way that you are.
Exactly.
And that is why it goes back to when I was saying before, you are not serving everybody. You are serving the people who have a problem, and you are offering them a possible solution, and that is where that is where the two of you will meet.
That makes sense. I mean, to me, the way I see that, though, that works if you're trying to, build a business that could probably scale up to a certain point.
Mhm.
But it's very rare to be serving such a large market that you're turning into a billion-dollar company. Like
Right.
that's a very, but not everybody wants that. Not everybody needs that. That's the point.
And that's okay. And
People
that's
just
also
want to
okay.
be able to build a business that they can live off of. A lot of people want that. And like you said, if you look at the gaps, there's plenty of opportunity, tons of opportunity.
Mhm. Exactly so. So the other thing is, and why I have such a passion for female entrepreneurship is because female run businesses are going to be the wave of the future. Women are extremely powerful. Society has sold us a bill of goods that made us believe that we do not have power. As I was telling a woman last night on a live, I
Yeah.
hate the word empowerment, because by the definition of empowerment, it means that somebody is giving me power. And
Mm.
if that definition goes to its full extent, it means that if you give me something, you can take it away.
Right.
Nobody gives me my power. I am powerful. So think about that from the perspective that women have the ability. If you look at your girlfriend, your wife, your mother, women that you've worked with, they have the ability to use both their left and right brain, which is something that I grew up in a house of only men, which men don't have. They don't. So that in itself is an enormous source of power. There is empathic leadership in that power. There is the power to speak to detail and also to speak to emotion. So it's both quantitative and qualitative at the same time. In the next 5 to 10 years, women will be taking over a lot of the Fortune 500 companies that exist right now. And a lot of women are going to be coming out of, whether it's high school, university, technical colleges, whatever, and they're going to go straight into entrepreneurship. They're not going to go into offices and corporate or whatever. And even those who decide to become CEOs of companies, the companies will be constructed and look different from how they ever looked before. That is a huge market that nobody is tapping into. And the reason why that has happened is because women were never looked at as a viable option, because the thought was that they would get married and stop working and raise a family. And now women are saying that we can do both. We can be wife, caregiver, childbearer, and CEO. That is a very big market. And if you do not want to invest in us, then women, and it's happening already, women are investing in female-owned companies. So a lot of angel investors are also women as well. So they're opening the door for other women. And while the men are still keeping it as if it is a boys' club, the women are building a huge global table where women are sitting around it. Don't drop the ball on that one, because that's where the money is. That is where the money is. That is where the money is.
And those changes are much needed, honestly. Like it's and it reminds me. That's what I was dropping down, because this book. I don't know if you have any of you have read it. Sorry, it's kind of like the glare is killing.
Yeah, exactly.
She's she basically she used to be on food stamps, and she wanted to be an angel investor. So she basically started investing in small companies that are by LGBTQIA founders, people of color, women entrepreneurs, and she has raised a bunch of money and is now a big investor and getting funding from big people to invest in companies that are female owned, that are LGBTQIA owned, and that are from marginalized communities. And I think this is where the future is, as you're saying. It's
that is the future. That is the future. That is the future of business. Those women have stories that they want to tell. Those women have platforms that they want to. I'm in blue today because today is World Autism Awareness Day. Women want to know that there are other women who are going to give them some breadcrumbs. Right. They don't want the entire meal. They want breadcrumbs so that they could follow the breadcrumb to where they're going. Those are the important things. The other thing about female-based companies, by and large, they cross the barrier of nationality, gender, and or race. Because most women share the same stories. So there is a huge sisterhood of women, irrespective of where they are or where they've come from, that are basically sharing the same stories, the stories of, and as I said earlier, the stories of wars won and lost. And when women start to talk about their stories, those stories resonate with other women, regardless of where they come from. That is a huge developing market. That is a huge developing market. And as I was telling a woman last night, I said, I am 58. I don't know how much time I have left, but I have powerful stories to tell other women, and I am not going to drop the ball. Those are the women that I'm speaking to. Those are the women who want to. We have never been thought or even told or even believed that we could create our own generational wealth.
Right.
We never had that concept as women that we can, that money is something that we can make and we could enjoy. That is all ours. You know, that's why Megan Thee Stallion and Cardi B have become overnight almost divas on all levels. I listened to Jamel Hill on Budded Podcast, and I think Jamel Hill is one of the most fantastic podcasters we have right now. Roxanne Gay has an awesome newsletter.
It's amazing.
Yeah. So I'm saying that it's a fast developing market, and it is something that needs to be considered, because that's what the future is going to look like. The future is really going to be female. In the next 10 years or less, it will come as no surprise that the CEO of a company is a woman.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, and that video content, the ability for somebody like me at 58 to reinvent myself, gives women permission to reinvent their own lives as well. That women must not be defined by how much children you have, or if you have children at all, or if you choose to have children at all.
But if you're married or not married or whatever it might be.
Yeah, listen, it's a brave new world for women, and the women are going to embrace it. They are going to be out there in droves. So,
Yep.
yeah. One of the things that I like at uni, and I have a great respect for it, is data. And I tell people that data informs strategy, not the other way around. And the
Absolutely.
data is there. The data is there. If you do just a raw search, you will see how much data is just behind the first little shadow. And then you start to think, but what the hell it is going on here in truth? And you will realize that there's a huge market that, according to Gladwell, is going to tip over into the mainstream. And if you don't move on that really, really fast, you'll be on your back
So
foot.
my question is, how? I'm sort of this is interesting, but you said move on it. Like, how does one move on this? You're talking about in terms of investment, in terms of like how does one be proactive with this shift?
By becoming an ally. It is as simple as that. And we're not talking about an ally in the sense of just using, um, just creating opportunities willy nilly. It's becoming an ally. Just inviting
So
me, just
be
inviting
be.
me
I think
today
the takeaway I
is
would say
something
is
that needs
being
to be
open
done.
minded
Women,
to the
and
shift.
speak to women. Ask them what does it feel like to be a woman? What
Right.
is the experience of being a black woman?
Right.
Ask your mother, ask your sisters over the Easter weekend, have a chat. You'd be surprised to know how many things your sister or your mom or your aunt or your girlfriend will tell you about the experience of navigating the world as a woman that
Right.
will, that will have you rocking back and thinking, shit, I didn't know all of this.
Yeah.
Right.
We navigate the world differently. We live in the same space, but being biologically male is almost another example of white privilege.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
It's up,
exactly.
and it's right there. It's like right here. It's like,
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So the way that you are, it might be a heavy lift, but it's not because you're surrounded by women who have, if you ask the right questions, and you don't have to be very, in the beginning, it's just raw data. Just
right.
ask the questions. Just ask the questions. Say, you know what? I had a conversation with a woman from Trinidad and Tobago, and she brought some things to the subject. Tell me something. I don't understand. What does it feel like being a woman during the pandemic? They will tell you that that is the reason why a lot of women are leaving the workforce because they've been saddled with the responsibility of caregiving while the men were still, to a large extent, allowed to operate as normal. So women became both remote workers and caregivers and caring for elderly parents. And that is why burnout became and depression and a lot of really, really hard times, women going in the shower and crying and everything else happened during the pandemic. And a lot of men, casting no shade again, were blissfully unaware because
Absolutely.
we are expected to carry that burden, but nobody's asking. So, are you making out at all this? How do you feel? How did you feel when in the first wave you were sent home? How did you survive before the stimmy came along? Um, what does it feel like to be a single mother with three kids under the age of 10? Would you like, if you had any opportunities in life right now, what would you most want to be? Especially older women. If what would you tell your 27-year-old self if you had a chance? The conversations are rich, and in asking those questions, it informs you as to a whole untapped market. And just as we spoke about, there's a big gap that maybe your company might be able to fill. Women
Right.
have not been even considered as being techy, and you can almost pick the women who are in tech. You know how many women don't know that there are other women who build games or are gamers? They don't. When AOC went up on Twitch the other day, that was a big deal. So now you have another category of women who are growing up in technology and are because those are their tools. Those are their tools of communication. How do they become better? How do they level that playing field so that the men don't make them feel, well, you don't know anything about that. You don't worry your pretty little head about that. Those are the things that women need to know. They need that kind of because women are very resilient. They bounce back from almost anything. So those tools are important for them to build bulletproof brands that, because remember, the whole thing about accounting is the concept of a going concern. You are in business until the wheels come off. Men don't think about strategy. Strategy for a man is the straight line between 2 points. Men expect to fail and they don't even think about that. For women, it's a lot of concentric circles and wiggles and turning
back and forth. Yeah.
delayed, and then having to take responsibility for, you know what, for this shit to happen, it will have to be me. And if you talk to your mom, she will tell you that. And these are the women who need to get a clearer path to where they are actually going. So that is why video content is so important for me, because I can tell them a lot of stories of things that they need to stop thinking about. If I had to speak to my 27-year-old self, I would say, girl, you wasted too much of your effing time thinking about what other people thought about you. And that the faster you get rid of that, the further along you will go. Be curious. Go in the direction of knowledge. Equip yourself for the brand new world. Become binary. Understand that data is important. Be predictive. Read everything, not just podcasts on design. Read about people who have won and lost. Explore the world. Do not explore a part of it.
Right.
And those things are important. And if I have to use the tools that I have until I get better lighting and a whole studio and a TEDx talk, I'm going to use it because I know who I am. I know what I'm bringing to the table. So even if they don't even see me,
right, the message and the story has to get out there somehow. And you only have so many creators in the world. There needs to be more perspectives, more information, more data. You can only make things better. So I would say we're a little bit short on time here.